continuing with dividing polynomials, here's the next problem, so you might want to pause and write this down. Now, this looks like a multiplication problem, but notice this n plus 4 raised to the negative 1. So think about what a negative 1 power tells you, and remember that's reciprocal. So this is telling me really to flip this and put it in the denominator. So I end up with n cubed plus 2n squared minus 5n plus 12 over n plus 4. And remember, the fraction bar is telling you to divide. So I'm dividing by n plus 4. I'm dividing by a binomial. I have a binomial in the denominator. Now, I could do long division. So remember, we did that on the last problem, but I'm going to show you a different method that you'll like called synthetic division. And to do synthetic division, the first thing you'll have to remember is you're going to start by taking the opposite of what is here. So this is a plus 4, so we're going to take a negative 4 and put that out front. And our divide by sign is going to be kind of like upside down. And we're going to use the coefficients. I have a 1 right here. If there's not anything showing, I have a 1n cubed plus a 2n squared minus a 5n. So I'm going to use just the number parts. So 1 and a positive 2, a negative 5, and a positive 12. So I'm using the coefficients. The coefficients are the numbers that are being multiplied by the variables. And again, remember this was the opposite of this value over here that was in the divisor, what we were dividing by. All right, once you have that part set up, you only have to, well, you do have to do one thing first, is bring down the first number. Once you bring down the first number, you just have to do two things. You're going to multiply, and you're going to add. So we'll bring down the first number. It's a 1. Then I do those two things. I'm going to take this negative 4. I'm going to multiply. Negative 4 times 1 is negative 4. And then I add. 2 plus negative 4 is negative 2. Then I multiply. Negative 4 times negative 2 is a positive 8. And then I add. Negative 5 plus 8 is 3. Then I multiply. Negative 4 times 3 is negative 12. And then I add. 12 minus 12 is 0. And I'm done. This last spot is my remainder. So I have a remainder of 0, just like we did in the last problem. Then this part actually tells you what your answer is. And what you have to do is, because we started with an n cubed, drop the power down 1. So you have n squared. So my answer, the 1, this is the coefficient of my answer. So I get 1 n squared. Negative 2 is next, so it's going to be minus 2n, because the power is going to go down by 1 each time. And then the last thing is plus 3. And chances are you won't put the 1 in front. You'll just have n squared minus 2n plus 3. And that's my answer. Now you can do long division and you'll get the same answer, but synthetic division, it's kind of nice because it's a lot shorter, and the variables then don't get in the way, and it just makes it a little easier to work it out. So again, I brought the first number down, and then after I did that, I multiplied and then I added. And I just multiplied and added until I ran out of numbers to do that with. We're going to try one more synthetic division. So on this problem, remember we're going to take the opposite. So instead of a positive 3, we're going to put a minus 3. The highest power is to the 5th power, and notice again there's a 1 here. I can think of it being a 1 here. But something else I want you to notice. Notice that there's nothing for the x to the 4th. So it's like I have 0x to the 4th. And then I have negative 7x cubed. And I don't have an x squared. I have 0x squared. So I have to fill those spots in to hold the place value, just like I would if I was dividing with regular numbers. So I'm going to have a 1, x to the 5th, 0, x to the 4th, negative 7, x cubed, 0, x squared, and then I have a 1x and a 1. So those are the values that I'm going to put in my synthetic division. Okay, again, make sure you see where they came from. The zeros are because there was no x to the 4th and there was no x squared, and I have to account for every power. So I have to have a value in there for every power. I bring the first number down. It's not always going to be a 1, but it is here again. So I bring the 1 down, and then I'm going to multiply and add. So I multiply, negative 3 times 1 is negative 3, and then I add. 0 plus negative 3 is negative 3. Multiply, negative 3 times negative 3 is a positive 9, and then add. Negative 7 plus 9 is 2. Multiply, negative 3 times 2 is negative 6, and add. 0 plus negative 6 is negative 6. Multiply, negative 3 times negative 6 is positive 18, and add. 1 plus 18 is 19. Multiply, negative 3 times 19 is negative 57. And add. Negative 1 plus negative 57 is negative 56. Now, this last spot right here, this is my remainder. The last spot will always be the remainder. This time I didn't get a remainder of 0. So the way I write out my answer, remember that I started with x to the 5th, so my answer is going to start with 1 power less, x to the 4th. These are the coefficients to my answer. So I start with an x to the 4th, so I have 1 x to the 4th, minus 3, drop 1 power down, x cubed, plus, the next number is a 2, and that's going to be x squared. The next number is a minus 6, and that's just going to be an x. And the last is just a plus 19. And then I have my remainder, and it's negative, so I'm going to have a minus 56 over what we divided by. Because remember, that's how we showed with when you have a remainder, you put it over what you divided by. We didn't divide by negative 3. Remember, originally we divided by x plus 3. So I'm going to put that over x plus 3. And that is my answer. So think about the work I did here with synthetic division compared to what this would have been like with long division, because I would have needed the zeros in that case as well. And synthetic division is much easier. So you'll actually want to try and learn how to, well, you'll want to learn how to do synthetic division because it's much easier to do the problems that way.